sorry. You good?
No, you're good.
Hey, Raj, how are you? How you doing, Raj?
Good. How are you?
Alrighty. See your little card. Oh, is that you? Of course they have. What are these? Oh, that's so cute. Steve?
Steven, thank you. Thank you for the card. Appreciate it.
That looks very schematic.
So, Ken, are you back in this time zone yet or not?
I am.
Okay. I just want to
I
make sure.
am.
Oh, that's right. You were enjoying the island.
Yes. I didn't want to come back. No, it's interesting. I didn't realize that pineapples grow on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't?
No, until I went to Dole's,
Oh,
the
yeah.
plantation. I'm like, what?
They have a whole bunch of those in
Oh, my
Africa.
God.
In
Really?
Kenya, yeah. You go north out of Nairobi, it's nothing but pineapples and bananas. That's
Wow.
it. Yeah.
See your coordinator? See your card? Oh, everybody got one.
Good idea.
An artist, budding artist.
Look at this. Yes, he's a budding artist, right? You know, my brothers and sisters, once they start texting me, just don't know when to stop.
That's a rebuttal.
Some of our pop-up and play worked real well this year. Had a lot of participants. Where did Lori go? Saw her here.
Who?
Lori Metz.
I did see her too.
I saw
Lori
her
was
here.
sitting in the back.
No media here.
I'm watching on Zoom. Oh, go to the live stream. It'll come in.
We got to pan the audience.
God, will you guys stop? I'm going to call this meeting to order a little early because of the number of guests we have. Please rise for the invocation, followed by the pledge of the flag. Tonight we honor and pray for our veterans, worthy men and women who gave their best when they were called upon to serve and protect our country. We pray that they be blessed for their unselfish service in their continual struggle to preserve our freedoms, our safety, our country's heritage for all of us. Tonight we also pray for the members of the Easton Branch NAACP for their community service program that honored our veterans with a banner in their honor. We know that the program will continue to grow each year. And tonight we ask that you watch over all of our residents and keep them safe from harm. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Give me a second.
Take your time.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Millian?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Sultana? Here. And Mayor Panto?
Here. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Millian?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Davida Moore.
Approval of
to-
the minutes, Mayor.
Oh, I'm going to do the, okay, we'll do approval of the minutes from our October 12th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved in second. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call.
Mr. Millian?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
I abstain.
When Davida came to me and with the other members of the Easton Branch NAACP to do the Hometown Heroes program We were very excited to get it started, and the city partnered with the NAACP to do this. This is a program that honors, and you probably see the banners throughout town. And we know that it's going to grow each year because people have called my office and said, how do I get one of those banners? So we know that it's going to happen, and we want it to happen. And if we could fill every pole with a banner, that'd be great. But we have a lot of poles in this city, and if we have a lot of people we can add to it. A lot of people served. I personally recognize David Moore, who I taught with, and for many years in Easton School District, and of course, my good friend growing up was Terry Gibson, and we both grew up in Delaware Terrace Projects, and so to see them up, and I had Lee Gibson as a student, so I see people up there that I know. Tom Hess is up there, our former city clerk. It's a good way of saying thank you, but I want to thank the NAACP because the Easton branch, this is their first venture into a big community project. It really came off well. And they use a local printer right here down on Northampton Street. So we're real excited that they kept everything in-house. So I'd like to introduce DeVita Moore. DeVita Moore Curry, that's right. I only remember you as DeVita Moore.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming.
Could you
out.
speak into the microphone, please?
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening. I want to thank especially our hometown heroes and their family for the sacrifices that they made. And then I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Dickerson. He's going to say a few words.
So my name is Charles Dickerson, United States Navy Reserve from 1963 to 1970. I was with the NAACP as we thought about this project. We felt Easton needed to do something like this, given what's going on around us. You see this in a number of cities. And we felt it was something that we needed to do here. And we thank the mayor and the city council for being good partners in this. And as the mayor said, this is not the last time. We're going to try to work this on a going forward basis. And tonight we have some certificates that we want to hand out. We hope that this will give you some pleasant memories. You'll see the picture of what's up. There's also a proclamation that's a part of it, etc. So we hope that you can take this home with you and as a very fond memory. It's just a small token of what the families here have done. And I really appreciate being an honor and being a part of this, because I know what it means. So we're going to call names. We also have to take a quick photo as we go. Our photographer's here. So any questions before we do that? So we're ready to go. The mayor has us on a short leash here, so we want to be able to do this expeditiously.
So as I call the veteran's name, if you have someone here that's representing the veteran tonight, we're going to give you the certificate. Actually,
I need you to just talk in the microphone because
Oh.
it's being live streamed.
there's a
There's
picture.
thousands watching.
Make her nervous.
He knows I don't like to speak.
No pressure.
There's a picture that duplicates the banner that's hung in Easton. And also Senator Lisa Boscola sent a certificate. It says Certificate of Recognition with great respect presented, and it has the veteran's name, State Senator Lisa Boscola, along with the NAACP. Easton Branch recognizes you as a local hometown hero. We respectfully thank you for your time, bravery, and sacrifice. The first veteran's name I'm calling is Khalil Al-Shabazz. Khalil, I'm sorry. I knew I was going to miss it. And his brother. Yeah, he's going to stand up. James C. Alfred Jr. I'll call their name and we can hear it.
I want to hand James his.
You go.
James and I grew up in the same neighborhood. Projects. Hey, better help this year, right?
John Gavison.
Bring him over here.
John B. Chu Jr. John Chu Jr., Andrew Cuff, Matthew Todd Detweiler, Craig Dorsey. Joseph Walter Dorsey III. Timothy Oscar Dorsey Jr. and William Earl Dorsey. That's our father. Okay. That's for your father. Okay.
Thank you.
Look at the camera.
We're going to take a group picture as well. Joseph Lockwood Farrell. Fred E. Fredericks. Tyrone G. Fredericks. Lee Gibson. Larry Gibson. William Terry Gibson. Louis Alexander Harrison Sr. Thomas Hess. Rhonda Gilbert. Robert L. Hudson. Thomas J. Hudson III. Anthony Jordan. Yvette Jordan Harrison.
Oh, there she is. I had Yvette as a student.
Robert E. Jordan. You might want to slide down some. That's for Robert E. Jordan.
Roderick Jordan.
Okay, thank you.
Colonel James McKinley. McKinnery.
If you want to start a second line.
Reverend David C. Moore Jr. Davita C. Moore Curry. Daniel Moore. Sergeant David Charles Moore III. Got a big Moore family, huh? John Raines. Okay. Yeah. David Reed. That's Natalie. That's Natalie. Okay. Okay. David S. Reed. Mark Edward Seymour Jr. Irvin Shorter. William Trevor Swint. Okay. Okay. A little confusion. Okay. Herman M. Swint.
Not today.
And stay here, Michael. H. Michael Swint. In front. Carl Taylor. Andrew Corporal Andrew B. Thedford Sr. Robert Thornton.
And get in front. They're going to do a group picture.
I know who that is.
Okay. You might also stay here. William H. Thornton Jr. That is you. Okay. Jonathan Tyndall. Joseph William Tyree. Oh, no.
Right.
And,
And then,
and Stanley Curtis Williams.
You gonna get a picture?
Get a group picture? Okay. Make it over here. The side.
Awesome.
Shorter people up front, second row. Short ones in the front. Stand up, you gotta move over. I don't want to be in the picture.
Don't need a wide angle lens on this one.
Put some other ones in. Can I call you at a different day or something? Evening look?
Vine and Vine and Cole.
I want to thank you again for coming and for being involved in this program.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Davida.
Thank you.
More curry.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks for your service.
Yes, and thank you for your service, all those that served.
Thank you.
James, you take care of yourself. James Alford. Tell him to take care of himself. Take care of yourself. I don't want you back in the hospital. The good news is that now I know you have a heart.
What? Didn't have to go to the wizard.
Thank you.
Take care, James.
Bye.
Good seeing you. Bye bye now.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself. Bye bye now.
For 60 years, we called him Junebug.
Everybody did.
Yeah.
It's hard to break the habit.
That's what I know, but I didn't know it was that.
I mean, I knew his name was James, but I never called him.
Okay, at this time in our meeting, we have a presentation by the Wildlands Conservancy. Lori, I don't know who you're going to have come up first, but podium's yours. Oh, Lori, you're here for the summer program? Okay. No, you're first.
What?
Have the presentation up. Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
Easy, Dave.
It's not working. There it goes.
Don't do that.
Mayor Chitsey.
Well, how about
He's a good-looking guy, isn't he? Scary.
TV? Hold on, guys.
Podium.
Yes. That's perfect. I think it's just waiting.
You only get
Yes,
one
perfect.
channel at the cruise.
Okay. Well, a little less excitement to follow. Thank you very much for having us on the agenda today. We wanted to catch up about the Bushkill Stream Restoration Project. So my name's Christy Fatch. I'm the Director of Ecological Restoration at Wildlands Conservancy. We have several partners in the room today that will also be part of the presentation. We have Chad Pindar from Delaware River Basin Commission. We have Paul Woodworth from Princeton Hydro as the project engineer. And really what this is all about is something that we've been working on for many years, focusing on stream restoration along the Bushkill Creek. This is something that came up to the board and was signed back in 2016. So feels like we've been doing this for a very long time. But the resolution at the time had given us approval for the partners to work together to proceed with the stream restoration and dam removal project, pending review of an engineering committee or engineering study. So where we're at now is at the process, we have all of the thorough engineering completed. We want to share it with council, answer questions, and then in the future, we're at a point where we can be looking at construction, which we would be asking then for approval. But we're not going to do that today because I really want to just pause and give everyone a chance to just have a conversation first. So just a few points that we're going to be going over today. Project background, which Chad will be providing, the project status and next steps, and then we'll go through a design review from Paul with Princeton Hydro, and then have a question and answer period. And this is something that, no worries to have a question immediately. If there's something that comes up later after, you look back at the designs a little bit, we're happy to answer questions after the meeting as well. So I will turn it over to Chad.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and audience. Just want to give you a little bit of history as to how we got here. Back in August of 2005, there was an ash spill at what was formerly known as the PPL Martins Creek facility along the Delaware River. And as a result of that ash spill, there was a natural resource damage. And essentially the dam removals and stream restoration is a result of those natural resource damages. How did this occur? There was a stop log failure at an ash basin. An ash basin is where they store the combusted slurry, or the slurry from the combustion of ash or combustion of coal. And in essence, it was a log that failed, and it resulted in 100 million gallons or so of ash slurry into the Delaware River. The impacts were many. There were upland and roadway areas that were impacted. Alton Creek was impacted. The Delaware River itself was also impacted. This is a picture of where Alton Creek enters the Delaware River. As you can see, it was a pretty lengthy endeavor to get the ash out of the river. That's what's called a porta dam being constructed. And a couple hundred tons of ash were removed from the river in the fall, really, of 2005. There were also two pools downriver that were referred to as Pools 1 and Pools 2, where there was a substantial amount of ash that settled within the river. And these were areas where damage to natural resources occurred as well. What happened since 2005? I don't want to bore you. I don't want to read this slide, but there was a lot of negotiating in terms of identifying the natural resource damages, figuring out a dollar amount to compensate for those natural resource damages. And then there were some court cases involved with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court over the Commonwealth settlement with PP&L. Long story short, a lot of negotiations, but finally in 2016, a consent order and agreement was signed between the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and PP&L, which later then became Talon Energy. What I want to focus on is really the primary impact to the environment was to freshwater mussels. As you can imagine, they don't move a lot. They're at the bottom, and they got smothered with ash, and that caused mortality or toxicity to those mussels. And so the remedy for that was to try to increase freshwater mussel populations. And freshwater mussels are a benefit to the ecosystem. They're filter feeders. They're really good for water quality, et cetera. How is DRBC involved? The Delaware River Basin Commission is acting on behalf of the Commonwealth. We have an easier way to distribute funds than Pennsylvania does. So Pennsylvania, who's one of our 5 commissioners, asked us to undertake this role. DRBC did so. We, in order to do that, we issued an RFP for consulting services, which is how we engage with Wildlands Conservancy. They're our nonprofit who is managing the engineering firm, which is Princeton Hydro. And then we'll also manage the contractor to go through the dam removals. So that is, in a nutshell, 2005 to 2018. And again, what is the link between dam removal and freshwater mussels? Well, freshwater mussels require a host fish or eel to propagate. In their larval stage, they need to attach to the gills of, in this case, American eel, and that is what enables them to move upstream and downstream of rivers or streams. Where we have dams that block fish passage, that blocks the distribution of freshwater mussels. And so the Bushkill Creek was in direct vicinity of the spill, right, the Delaware River. There are several dams on the Bushkill that we knew are obsolete. And so that was the targeted tributary for these funds to get freshwater mussels back into the Bushkill, tributary to the Delaware River. So the bottom theory is if we remove dams, we can increase migratory fish access, and hopefully that means more freshwater mussels. Okay. And then it's back to Christy. Thank you.
I have just a quick question.
Sure.
In the environmental chain, and you'll have to excuse me, I don't know a lot about this, but the freshwater mussels increases the fish migratory patterns. Is that right?
So migratory fish sometimes have a hard time getting around man-made obstacles like dams or culverts that they can't get through. In this case, Eastern elliptio is the type of mussel that is the most common in the mainstem Delaware. In essence, it is the primary mussel that does a lot of filtering of the water. That's how mussels feed. They filter the water. So they're like natural filtration plants. Okay. They're really excellent for water quality. And those mussels need a host in order to reproduce. And in our case, for Eastern elliptio, American eel is the preferred host for those mussels to reproduce.
Okay. So filtering the water is really what is
the theory is if we open up fish passage, or for American eel, they can repopulate freshwater mussels to areas that they haven't been able to.
And that means they can go up and downstream.
Yes. Okay. For 100 years or so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So as Chad was talking about the size of the project, I wanted to have a map so that you can get familiar with where all the other project sites are located. So we're focused on the first 3 dams on the Bushkill. And there is also, speaking of the first 3 dams, the first one is owned by Lafayette College. The second one is owned by the city of Easton, which we're here to share about tonight. That's right behind the recycling center. And then the third one is owned by 2 private landowners. That's part of the silk mill redevelopment. The 5th dam that we recently removed, which I have some pictures to show so that you can see what the process is for dam removal, that was over at up by the Binney and Smith.
The former Binney.
The former Binney and Smith factory, which is also a neighbor to Wildlands Conservancy Preserve. And this is a picture of the city of Easton Dam. So the background, as I shared in the map, there's 3 different landowners working on this project. We've all been working very closely together This has been such a positive partnership effort from the community involvement, the agency involvement, utility companies, PennDOT. A lot of groups have been working together, which is very rare to have that many groups in support of the work that can go on in a project. So we shared that October 2016, there was a resolution signed. Since then, we've met many times, over 6 times, with all of the partners, with the landowners and community partners. The landowners of dams 1, so Lafayette College, and then the third dam have been approved to proceed to construction. And funding is in place so that we're looking at 2023 construction. As I mentioned the partners, I just wanted to have a slide that shows just how many groups we're working with. So not only the state agencies, we have conservation partners, and then project funders, including local funders, Northampton County, a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, our state departments. We were able to raise over $2 million, including the mitigation funds that are available. So a very strong effort behind this project. Also, Lafayette College has been wonderful with looking at this as an opportunity to incorporate all of the ways of dam removal and stream restoration and the location into their classrooms, whether it be biology or geology program, and also even in their economic program, or they're looking at it from all different angles, which I've just been really impressed with all of the how they've embraced this. And it's been something that's been going on for close to 10 years. We have pre-monitoring, or pre-project data on it. So Chad mentioned a little bit about the project benefits, but we really see this as a great opportunity for the city of Easton to support, because it covers so many benefits, not only for the numerous natural resource benefits, water quality, and all of the aquatic habitat benefits to restoring natural stream flow. It's also removing a dam, and whenever there's a dam, there's also a liability that the landowner is responsible for, and also with dams, there's maintenance involved, and there's a safety component there. So by removing the dam, we're addressing that at no cost to the city. All of the costs for the dam removal and stream restoration would be covered through the funding that we've secured. We would also be, and I'll share this a little bit farther down, we'll also be addressing an infrastructure issue. There's some current scour issues at the Carl Sterner Arts Trail pedestrian bridge, and this would be included in the stream restoration efforts. So I just wanted to go over the timeline. I won't take much time on this, but from 2016, we've been coordinating with, we've had PennDOT involved, we've used their design plans in the bridge stabilization. They've reviewed and given approval. We've worked with the Easton Area Joint Sewer Authority, as well as the landowners. UGI, while we were doing this engineering work, the survey work, we realized that there was an exposed gas line. So UGI came in support of the project and relocated the line. We've also completed a survey of when we're doing the design plans, and Paul will share more about that, but we're really very thorough about any potential impacts to infrastructure. Certainly within the city, you have gas lines, sewer lines, bridges that cross the stream. So we do a very deep look into what the impacts might be. While we were doing the survey work, we realized that the Carl Sterner Arts Trail Bridge, that we saw some scour there, and paid to have Barry Isaac do an assessment, and their assessment identified that yes, there is current scour. It would continue for the project if the project would proceed. And then we also incorporated that into the project then, and we developed the design plans for, and I just was showing costs because that was cost covered through the project funds, the mitigation funds. Bridge stabilization would cost about $200,000. That's something that we have included into the project. because we really want this to be something that everyone can feel good about and not leave any issues still that aren't addressed. We did go through a bid process, a public bid process. This was back in 2021, and the cost came in higher than the money that we had at the time. So that was back to the grant writing, securing additional funds, which now we have in place. So I'm almost done with the slides here, but to talk about next steps. So sharing the design plans today, I'll look to the council for when we would come back to have a vote for looking to proceed with construction. That could be, and we'll talk about what timing that would work best. We want to have the permit waiver. So part of the process is getting approval by the state. That includes the erosion and sediment control. That includes all of the design plans. There's a whole process for permitting. So we would submit the permit at the end of the year with the plans to proceed with construction in the summer. And then in addition to that, we have plantings that we do as part of the project. Usually we invite volunteers and all the partners out to do a planting. So I think this is one of my last slides before I turn it over to Paul. But this was the project that I mentioned over at the old Biddy and Smith factory. So typical to dams, you'll have a lot of debris. You notice that on the slide with the city of Easton, that high flow events, trees can get stuck on the dam. So that was a similar situation here in the picture on the top left. And the process is very methodical. We have equipment that comes in and they breach the dam. You can see the bottom left picture. Basically, we don't want this to be a full-on washout of water. We're doing it in incremental steps. So we allow the water to adjust, and then we continue to break that apart over a period of time that's we're trying to limit the impact while we're working in the stream. And then what I'm always very proud about and very encouraged that every time that we're doing a stream restoration project, fishermen are very eager to come out and fish. And the picture that you see of the man fishing was literally the day after construction. So everyone was very eager to be able to come out and fish in a place where had been actually up over, you can see the water line there, would have been up over his head and not the best conditions for fishing. And this is just a slide to talk about the next steps as we shared. It's really approval for construction, which would also have a couple landowner agreement forms that are standard to the grants. Anytime you have a grant supporting a project, they require a signature that the landowner agrees to the project, and then also the permit waiver process signature. So I just wanted to include that in here so you had a picture of what that next step is and what that approval process would involve. Before I turn it over to Paul, I'm not sure if I want to pause to ask questions now or wait till the end.
Any questions with council?
Yeah, just a quick question. Would you be able to provide a copy of the plan or project?
Mm-hmm.
The council? Okay.
Yes. Yep. We can do that. Okay.
Dr. Ruggles?
I just had a question. I watched the removal of the dam by Benny and Smith. And one of the questions that I have is when the dam was removed, the forebay area obviously decreased as you showed in the picture. And those side banks of the channel were very exposed. And I'm just wondering, is there some in the process of doing this, is there some way that those can be revegetated? I mean, they're bare, mm-hmm. And if we have high flow rates, they're going to erode rapidly. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know if that's part of the process in the removal, or because I didn't see it in that dam.
Mm-hmm. So, and we have been going out there regularly and doing additional plantings. So when the dam's first removed, you'll see the banks exposed, and some of that is actually really nice outcrops. But then some of it, as you mentioned, is also with the water going back to a regular flow pattern, you're having the the wet banks that were underwater, so no vegetation
Right,
growing.
right.
But we put native seed down over at Binney and Smith. Just this fall, we've planted hundreds of native plugs, and then we've also done tree and shrub plantings. And that's the similar type of approach that we would take. So in the fall, we would do plantings, and then we would come back the following year. We're always assessing the site and seeing how we can improve it. And Binney and Smith, we're also applying for grant funding to do additional in-stream habitat work that would help with the banks there too.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Exit out of this. Great. So again, my name is Paul Woodworth. I'm a senior project manager and fluvial geomorphologist with Princeton Hydro. We were contracted by Wildlands Conservancy to do the engineering design for this. This dam removal is a particular area that our company focuses a lot in. We've done over 75 dam removals in the Northeast at this point. So we're pretty excited to take this on. In the interest of time, I've front-loaded my slides to show zoom-ins of the plans, and so I can talk about them very quickly, and then I can answer questions afterwards. So this is a plan view of where the dam is now. It's actually indicating. Do I have a cursor ability to point here? Okay. So a little bit of detail about this. So we're talking about removing basically the majority of that spillway, with the exception of the abutments. On the river left side, we're proposing to leave a portion of that abutment in place as a measure to stabilize that bank, because it's a super steep bank. It's very high above the river there, and we're actually proposing to bring in additional stone or even use some of the fragments from the dam itself as additional stabilization on the river left bank. On the river right bank, this hatching here indicates that there's been slope failures over the years. There's slope failures coming up from the very top of Locust Street there, and that's been stabilized with riprap over the years. The abutment at this location, unfortunately, is just severely undermined. There's really nothing underneath it, and so it can't really be restored. So we're proposing to remove that abutment entirely, but to install new rock, new stone stabilization all along this bank, along with several flow deflector devices. So these are large boulder outcrops that jut out into the channel slightly. They divert flow away from the toe of the bank. They help reduce velocities, reduce shear stress, and contribute to the stability of that bank at the location of that spillway there.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Is that the embankment that is on the backside of where the city's garage is at?
Yeah, so this side here is where the city garage is.
Uh-huh.
Can you see my cursor?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then this is the opposing bank to that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I was going back, I used to walk across that thing.
Yep. So again,
I'm sorry. You said you're decreasing velocity?
Yeah, so these devices here, which are very difficult to see in this slide here, they are essentially flow deflectors. So what they do is they slow velocity at this location just upstream within the vicinity of this rock outcrop, essentially. And so it deflects flow away from the toe of the bank out into the center of the channel, just in these two localized areas, right here, right this feature right above the spillway and this feature right below it. Yeah.
You decrease the velocity there, you're going to increase the velocity somewhere
Downstream.
else.
Right. So it's what it does is it shifts it into the center of the channel. That's it shifts it away from the bottom of the bank and into the center of the channel. Yeah. And then what's important to know is that we did sediment sampling for all these dams all the way up, had it analyzed, compared it to state standards, and determined that sediment quality was not a concern. There were not high levels of contaminants, and we really test for a broad range of contaminants. And so with DEP's approval, obviously we have to submit for permits, but we're fairly confident they're going to agree that this is coarse-grained sediment. It doesn't contain a lot of contamination, and so we're going to be allowed to passively release it. And there isn't a whole lot of sediment stored behind these structures. They're very long and linear. They have just a veneer of a couple feet of sand and fine gravel behind them. And so that material will be allowed to transport downstream over time to the Delaware River. that is often deemed as sort of perceived as sort of like a bad thing to happen, but quite honestly, streams are, they carry three ingredients: water, sediment, and organic debris. You create a barrier to any one of those three, you result in some kind of problems. And so dams, one of their major impacts is by trapping sediment. They actually cause sediment starvation downstream and actually can exacerbate erosion and bank failure. So one of the benefits to removing dams is you're restoring that natural transport of sediment. And that's what we anticipate at this location as well. Any questions about this view of this slide before I move to the next one?
I got a question.
Sure.
My question is, she mentioned earlier that there was scouring locations. Is that at what we call the Blue Bridge?
Yeah, that's my next slide.
Okay, you get.
Yep.
I'll wait till you get there.
Yeah. So so this is the river in profile view. So the last slide was a plan view or bird's eye view. This is the profile view. So this is showing the dam structure here. This line represents essentially the river bottom going upstream from the dam. And the other thing, the important thing to notice here is that when you remove a dam, the cascade of effects or changes happen upstream of the dam, not so much downstream. This is not a flood control dam. It doesn't change a lot of river behavior downstream of it. It's the changes upstream that are most important to us. So this yellow slice here represents the thickness of sediments, or pounded sediments, and this is the material we expect to transport downstream over time. And then as you move farther up, we have two big prominent pillars. These are Route 22 piers that are essentially right smack dab in the middle of the river. They stand way up. Route 22 is way up and out of the floodplain, so it's not really in the floodplain now. And one of the important things to note is that with the removal of this dam, we'll actually be sort of lowering flood elevations more than they are today, so by a couple feet, and that dissipates upstream. And then on this slide here, this represents what I call the Blue Bridge, or the Carl Sterner Arts Trail Bridge. And you'll notice that this is hydraulically constricted. So this shows these flow lines underneath it that are very tightly squeezed under. In other words, this is a very small opening. If this bridge were to be built today, it would never get permitted like it is because it is so hydraulically constricted. The abutments jut out from the banks. The bridge is really low. The floods have a hard time squeezing through. It's essentially a pressure flow situation, and that creates a lot of scour. And it's scour under today's conditions. It's not just scour that we'll be creating later. It is it's a high constriction under today's conditions. And so as Christy sort of alluded to, when we were doing our investigation, we found that the river right abutment to that bridge is actually somewhat overhung or scoured underneath, and that was a really kind of a red flag for us. So after we hired Barry Ice to look at it, they concurred that this is sort of an overhung situation. That abutment on the river right has scoured underneath it. It doesn't have a whole lot of stable material underneath it. The river left one happens to be founded on bedrock, but it is friable bedrock. So we agreed that this was probably opening up a risk for some damage in the long term at this bridge. So we decided to hire another structural engineer who then did structural designs for the stability of that using poured in place reinforced concrete footer walls at both abutments. And I'll show a quick screen of that too. Any questions about the profile shot here?
Yeah. When you're talking about the 100-year, are you analyzing the Bushkill Stream for the 100-year flow, or are you looking at what the backwater from the Delaware River is causing as far?
Yeah, good question. At this location, we're only looking at the 100-year for the Bushkill, and we do that purposefully. It's a worst case scenario for velocities. If the Delaware is flooding at 100-year, it creates a backwater effect. That backwater effect actually goes up and over dam number 1, which is right near 3rd Street. So that backwater effect mutes the velocities that happen in Bushkill Creek. So we looked at that just to see what the effect was. But when we're really looking at changes in water surface elevations, velocities, and shear stress, we look at the worst case scenario. So we eliminate the backwater effect from the Delaware. And we only look at the highest flows in the Bushkill Creek.
Okay, so
Does that make sense?
I'm not exactly sure what the elevation of the Delaware is I mean, the 100-year, let's say, of the Delaware is at this particular location, but if it is at, I can't read what's off the left there. If it is at that,
Say it's at 185. Is that?
yeah, I'm not sure. My screen only sees zeros there. Sorry.
Oh,
Okay, so
You
it's
see-
at 185.
yeah.
Delaware?
This line represents the 100, but this is the 100 without the Delaware effect.
Without the Delaware.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, if the Delaware causes water surface elevations to be at whatever the water surface elevation in your analysis was upstream of the dam, okay, pre demolition, okay, then it doesn't decrease the 100-year water surface elevation there.
That's correct. I mean, this will decrease the 100-year event in the Bushkill alone. This has no effect on the 100-year in the Delaware.
So I mean, when you say it's going to decrease the water surface, it's not. I mean, the
It will in the
floodplain
Bushkill.
will still be by FEMA.
But
The
it-
floodplain will still be influenced by the Delaware.
Yes, but you need to understand that that the flood event that occur. Well, you need to understand that the 100-year event that happens at the Bushkill does not always coincide with the 100.
Oh, yeah, I know.
In fact, they're way out. If it's a single hurricane, for example, that comes up and creates a 100-year event,
Right.
it will happen in the Bushkill before it happens at the Delaware.
Right.
It'll actually dissipate in the Bushkill, then it will happen in the Delaware. So the two are not synchronized. You know what I mean? So you'll get the 100-year effect of Bushkill. It'll pass through, and then the Delaware would rise to its 100-year event. Is that?
So the other thing that I would be concerned about here is not those extreme events, but let's say the 10-year event or the 5-year event, and how the velocities, where we're already seeing scour at the Blue Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay. Removal of the dam. I don't know. I'm just looking at it. I don't know if it'll cause increased
Let me-
velocities there or not.
Let me jump slides. I have other slides at the bottom that I wasn't going to
Okay,
touch
go
on.
ahead.
But I'd only touch on if I had questions, and
Okay.
since you're asking the questions. So
Okay,
we did a hydraulic model. So we look at a variety of flows. We looked at the 10-year, the 50-year, the 100, and the 500. And we compared all those, and we looked at the maximum shear stresses and velocities for all of those flows. And that's what we designed for. So whichever flow gave us the greatest velocities and shear stresses, those are the ones we designed around.
What my experience on the Shennick Creek, which is a tributary of the Bushkill, okay, is that the erosion that they're seeing on the Shennick is not really the 100-year or the rarer events. It's the more frequent events, and that would be something that I would have some concerns about in removing the dam. If the velocities in that area do increase because of the removal of the dam, okay, which they should, then in those like 10-year storm or 15-year storm or whatever, those happen more frequently.
Correct.
And therefore have a greater impact on sediment transporting out of that area. And I mean, you look at the wall, the stone wall that the cemetery has, and you can see that portions of it are crumbling into the creek, because it's been getting eroded away. And if that's something that would continue as a result of a 10-year storm or 15-year storm, I think that would be of some concern.
Yeah, and we looked, here's a table that showed all the flows we looked at, the 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, 50, 100, and 500. We actually looked at 3 different sources of hydrology, so FEMA gives us some, but they only focus on the 10, the 50, and the 100. We also looked at USGS stream stats, and we looked at the USGS gauge data. We compared all 3. We found that stream stats was the most conservative. They were given the highest values for a lot of those flows, and so that's the data set that we went with and that we designed around. I can provide you with our hydraulic model and our report, and if you have any additional questions later, I'd be happy to answer. So let me go, okay, so we looked at the river profile. And again, this was showing sort of existing and proposed water surface elevation. So there is that drop in the 100-year. Again, not including the Delaware. We don't affect the Delaware flows at all. And moving on from that, this is a screenshot of our construction plan, or that sheet associated with construction and water control. Primary activity happens closest to the dam. That's where most of the demolition is occurring. There has to be a way to get equipment down into the river. As we've noted, they're really high banks. We have a rock ramp that needs to be built into the river to get a machine down there. They initially notch the dam, and they go through a construction sequence that we've laid out that happens at this location. Separate to that location, up near the piers for Route 22, there has to be a separate entrance into the river where scour protection is placed around each pier and along the banks that have shown some bank failure that have been failed for a number of years now. And then in a third location, this is where the KSAT or the Blue Bridge is, and that's where additional stabilization work needs to be done there. And that's what involves the concrete installation. Incidentally, we did present all our H&H results to PennDOT. They're the ones that are basically doing a lot of the inspection and sort of maintenance on these structures. Went through the changes in hydraulics at each of these structures. They helped us sort of determine what was the appropriate stabilization method. The KSAT bridge exceeded those thresholds for their normal stabilization approaches, and that's why we went with the reinforced concrete designs that we have also. This is a shot of the detail of those flow deflectors on the river right bank near the dam. This is the riprap scour protection around the Route 22 piers, R8. So again, we're following DOT guidelines on that. This is the construction sequence we have, which we had allocated about 39 days. That did not include the work at the KSAT bridge. That's a sort of a separate effort that's going to require a different number of days. The main steps here are water control, mobilization and erosion sediment control, then the dam removal, which is broken down into a couple steps, accessing it, notching the spillway, demolishing the spillway, removing concrete, stabilizing with the abutments, then a follow-up bank stabilization work, and then scour protection at the upstream features. These are this is a shot of the scour protection detail for the railroad bridge, the KSAT bridge. You can see that this is one abutment that has basically soft sediment. This is the abutment that's undermined, and they have designed a reinforced concrete underpinning. This is concrete that's placed under the current face of the abutment, and then a concrete toe wall as well. And they have two different variations depending on these subsurface materials that are encountered, whether on your front face or the upstream face or the downstream face. And likewise, this is for the other abutment that has some shallow bedrock exposed. The abutment is basically founded on bedrock, and that's where additional, they have a couple different variations depending on how much bedrock is jutting out from the face of the abutment there.
Which bridge is this?
This is the KSAT, the Blue Bridge.
The what? I'm sorry?
The Blue Bridge.
The Blue Bridge. Oh, okay.
Yep.
I thought you said railroad.
Sorry. It used to be a railroad bridge. Sometimes I would call it a railroad bridge, but basically it's the pedestrian bridge. And then one final variation, if PennDOT, in their review of this, they determined that grouted riprap would be acceptable where the bedrock is most expansive, then that's an alternate detail that they've provided as well. And that's those are the nuggets of the plan, and I'd be happy to go back through any of those and answer any questions or follow up with questions later.
I just have one observation as the CEO of the company that owns the mill where the apartments are upstream, or actually downstream of the Benny and Smith Bridge dam that you removed. I don't agree that the 100-year floodplain, the 100-year flood comes up the Bushkill and is not affected by the Delaware. Everything I saw in the 2004 and 2005 and 6 floods was because the water in the Bushkill couldn't get back out into the Delaware, and it just kept backing up. I mean, I don't know what that does for hydrology, but I really believe that the backwater not being able to exit into the Delaware was the reason why we had a lot of flooding along the Delaware, along the Bushkill. I do agree that because the development in the suburbs, the Bushkill Creek has become nothing more than a stormwater basin. So during storms, you're right.
It's raging.
It's raging and it's moving.
Yeah.
And it's not affected by the Delaware. But when the Delaware floods, we do see a backwater. All the way, and that's a good mile and a half upstream from the Delaware.
Yeah, so our model shows that it's backwater's the first dam completely. So it's basically
That's flat. That's flat.
Yeah. I don't actually remember how much of the second dam, this dam, is submerged in that. I'm doubtful that it actually gets all the way up to the Benny Smith backwater effect.
Oh, it doesn't get that far.
It's
no.
pretty far up.
But it does get to the second dam because our 500
Yeah.
garage was flooded because of the backwater.
Yes,
But
I believe that's correct.
The backwater profile, the impact goes up just about to the curve of Bushkill Drive, where you come underneath 22 and then go up, and then there's a curve that goes to the left.
So
a stop
over
sign.
this dam, but
it's
just
almost
around
right there.
the
It's
bend.
the end of the backwater.
Hold on a second, I have
for the
an
Delaware.
aerial. So you're saying in this area? Sorry, under 22?
Yeah, and now go back upstream to the right about there is the end of the impact of the Delaware.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't have that on my plans, but that.
But I mean,
that tracks.
it's not correct to say that this will reduce the 100-year flood.
It is correct to say that because we're only talking about the flood in the Bushkill. And
Yeah,
that's all I'm
but
talking
if
about.
FEMA, if I'm a landowner right beside the stream and you
Yeah.
tell me, oh, it's going to reduce I'm going to say, oh, gee, that's great. Maybe I won't have to pay flood insurance anymore.
Right.
But that's not going to be the case because the Delaware is what's going to drive it. So
That's correct.
saying that it's going to reduce the 100-year flood, as far as FEMA is concerned, that is not correct.
If setting aside FEMA,
No. You can't set aside FEMA because FEMA is what shows us where the 100-year floodplain is. I mean, they're the ones that are controlling. I mean, when they say this is the 100-year floodplain, now all of a sudden our ordinances kick in that particular area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you tell me that's reducing it. Okay, now it's going to be a smaller area. That's not true.
we have to model a 100-year flood for the river that we're in. And then what our model shows us that it drops. And that's the case everywhere we model. You may be right. It is not the regulatory or the regulated 100-year floodplain. That's a separate thing. But it's true for me to say that we are lower in water surface elevations, and I have to give recurrence intervals for the Bushkill.
You can say that,
Yeah.
but don't say that you're decreasing the 100-year flood. That's incorrect.
Okay,
I know a little bit about
I will
this.
concede we are not changing the regulatory the FEMA 100-year floodplain.
Any other questions? Yes. Come on up here. Just come up to the podium, please.
I'm going to close
Your
out.
name and address.
Hi, my name is Drew Germanowski. I'm Van Arsdalen Professor of Geology and a fluvial geomorphologist like Paul, meaning we study earth surface processes with a focus on rivers. So what I wanted to also just touch upon is some other advantages of this project, biologically, ecologically, hydrologically. Myself and David Brandis from Civil Engineering and Megan Rothenberger in Biology have been monitoring the creek for over 10 years. In anticipation of dam removal, we've been surveying cross-sections upstream and downstream of these three dams. Megan Rothenberger's biology students have been studying water quality and the invertebrates. So I just wanted to address a couple of other positive aspects of removing the dams. Through our work monitoring the stream, the cross-sections year after year, we can see some of the impacts of natural sediment transport in the system, how much the cross-sections change. But with respect to biological impacts, in addition to having eels or other migratory fishes transporting mussel larvae up into the watershed. The other biological impact is the pools above each dam in the summer experience the highest water temperatures. And trout and cold water fish are often trapped between those dams. By removing the dams, you allow fish passage through that whole lower stretch of the Bushkill. The fish will find the springs and the cool water access points, so it improves water quality and the fishery in that way. And then just very quickly, Megan Rothenberger's data on dissolved oxygen, species abundance, biodiversity, percent EPT, which is a measure of stoneflies, caddisflies, and mayflies, which are water level, water quality indicators, all show the same results, statistically significant, that the very best water quality and species diversities, abundance are all in places without dams along the Bushkill or control sections. Downstream of the dam is not as good as a no dam reach, but better than upstream of the dams. And the upstream of the dams, and basically if you use an FBI indicator, which is a widely accepted biological indicator, the reference points, the Bushkills score excellent. Downstream of the dams, good, and upstream of the dams, fair. But statistically, the upstream pool areas are biologically in the worst condition. And so by removing the dams, you improve the water quality in the creek, as well as allowing fish to move freely. A lot of people don't realize it, but the Delaware River is loaded with trout, and those trout look to reproduce in the fall, and the dams serve as barriers unless they catch a tropical storm. And occasionally you'll see big 20-inch hook-jawed trout in pools upstream of the dam reproducing. But normally we're at the low flow period in the hydrologic year ends September 30th. And so usually those fish can't make it up the tributaries. So I just want to emphasize there's a lot of other ecological and biological advantages to the dam removal project.
Could you spell your last name for me, please?
Germanoski, Germanoski. My first name's DRU.
So you're telling me, Mr. Professor, that our Bushkill Creek, which is one of the best natural trout producing streams in the country, and we have fishermen coming from all over, this would actually help the fish.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
we would have more natural fish rather than stock fish.
Yes, we'd get, and the shad will probably move up the creek as well if the dams are removed. So yeah, to allow, the main goal is connectivity with the Delaware River. Lafayette has signed on to have Dam 1 removed because that's the gateway to the lower Bushkill. Your dam, the City of Easton Dam's next importance in that regard, and then the Dam 3 by the Silk Mill opens up that whole lower roughly 10, 12 kilometer stretch of the creek to free movement of fish within that segment, but as well as fish movement from the Delaware up into.
Well, then maybe we won't have anybody coming from out of town jumping off our bridges because the dam pond isn't there anymore.
Their liabilities. There was one death at Dam 1 in the mid-90s. A canoeist was killed during a tropical storm. And so they are, in the newspaper article, I think it was the Morning Call at that time, called these dams killing machines, one of the water rescue people. So they are liabilities for every dam owner, no question. And they serve no modern purpose. So thanks for your time, and thanks for letting me say a few things.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, you're right. The flow over the dams, it's amazing because I saw actually at the Lafayette Dam, I saw a tree that was probably about 8 feet long, and it was maybe this big in diameter, and it had come over the dam and got sucked down underneath the water and kind of waited a little bit, and then all of a sudden popped back up, got sucked back in, back down, and it just stayed there. And I mean, and how buoyant is that, large piece of wood,
During high flow, Michael Phelps wouldn't get out of those hydraulics.
No.
The other thing I would emphasize by way of liability, when we're working on the creek, we're spending a lot of time there, and we see children and sometimes young mothers with literally infants and young children, toddlers, at these dams, and I think it's a miracle that we haven't had any additional tragedies here. So, I think that liability issue is one that everyone involved should be very cognizant of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to follow up and get your thoughts for next steps, when the best time would be to come back to, you know, I guess first we want to get questions, have a period of question and answers, but then also having a vote at I would assume at a council meeting would be necessary.
Did I hear you during your presentation earlier said that your application has to be before the end of the year?
Mhm.
So it has to be sometime before the end of the year.
Now, I will be away. I know you have a meeting the 9th and then I think the 21st, and I will not be here for either of those, which is okay if that's, if you don't need me to be in the room, but if you prefer, if I would be to answer any questions, then,
I would ask any council member to email you any questions they have,
okay,
because I don't see it happening before December 9th.
okay.
It's gonna be it'll probably be the December 9th meeting, because the 21st, we're still not even sure we're gonna have one.
We don't meet on
Is
the
that going
night.
to be an ordinance? Because that's property.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, I don't know if that has to be an ordinance or
In
not.
November we do, but not.
That's property
Just-
we're getting
but
rid
it's
of.
just-
We're essentially getting rid of.
We're not getting rid of it, we're just getting,
All right. I don't believe there's any conveyance of property that's being done. Is that correct? It's just maintenance and work on a property?
We own something.
Correct.
And that something's not going to be there anymore.
Well, but it's a structure on a property.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I don't know if that's an ordinance or not. I mean, it seems to me like,
Yeah,
you know, we're disposing of,
I don't believe for a demolition. I mean, I would certainly talk it over with Attorney Shear, but I don't believe a demolition of a structure on property that the city owns requires an ordinance. You're not conveying anything, you're not leasing anything, you're not changing the ownership rights of the property itself, which is usually what triggers the requirement of an ordinance.
I mean, we don't, do we own, there's no property there. We own the dam, but, I mean, it's not,
the waterway is a waterway of the Commonwealth.
yeah.
Right. But we don't, if you're demoing a structure, is different from conveying a piece of real estate, in other words. I don't know. It would be the short answer to it. We're not selling it, which is different. It's not a money generator. It's not a piece of property like real estate that is used as a structure. And I don't believe for demolition of a structure, you would have to have an ordinance.
Okay.
But I would certainly something we should research to make sure that we're right on that issue.
It'll be done, but it won't be done till December.
Okay.
I mean, it's either
And that
gonna be
works.
the
I can
9th and the 21st, or just the 9th. Because we have our budget hearings before then, and the budget has to be approved before December 15th, so
Okay.
we're looking at,
That-
council has a number of budget sessions before that.
Okay,
before the
and
end
that
of
would
the
work
year.
well. I can be there for the December one.
And could I get a copy of the hydrologic report, please?
Yep. Well, you can, yep, we can get
Paul
that.
has that.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Metz, who did a great job running our pools this year. And in addition to our pools, in our efforts to reopen the summer playground program, did the summer pop-up and play at 3 of our parks. And so we want to give a report on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for having us tonight.
We love the partnership with the YMCA. It's a
Thank
great
you.
partnership. It's a great partnership.
Thank you. As Mayor said, we're no stranger to the city of Easton. We've actually been doing the pools since 2007. It's a long time, huh, Mr. Hopkins?
You're dated them.
So we're so grateful for the enhanced role that you asked us to play this summer, and I would like to introduce to you to the two people that really drove that program. First is Fred Jennings. He joined us, the Y, in the spring of 2018 by doing his internship from East Stroudsburg University, and then he never left. He just stayed on with us. He joined our staff team in May of 2018 as a day camp counselor and then a counselor in our before and after school program. He continued in these capacities until he was promoted to program coordinator in February of 2020, just in time for COVID to hit. And through COVID, Fred became a jack of all trades. He plugged in wherever the Y community needed him. It included jobs such as member service ambassador, enforcing the do's and don'ts of COVID in our building. He was a maintenance associate. He was a teacher in the Here For You program. That's where we cared for children that needed to study remotely and couldn't do it at home. They came to the Y. Then he went back into some camp counseling. He supported the food program, prep and distribution, and playground program leader. And the list just goes on. Most recently, Fred was promoted to program director, where he's really looking forward to implementing COVID recovery strategies that bring kids and families back into our Y. I'm very grateful for Fred and his leadership and his stick-to-itiveness, especially through the crazy COVID period. And then Sarah Wassel, she joined our Y full-time as a child care service director in 2015. In this role, she built a very successful before and after school program, as well as a thriving day camp. She accomplished unique goals like becoming an archery instructor so that kids could experience true summer camp activities. In 2019, Sarah took a short break to have a beautiful redheaded daughter. And then she returned to the Y in a new capacity of program director, where she launched some successful grant-driven programs. In 2020, she was appointed senior program director with 2 coordinators under her, Fred being one, again, just in time for COVID to hit. During this period, Sarah was and continues to be everywhere, supporting every department. This includes maintenance, childcare, membership, food service, aquatics, you name it. She's become an expert in pool maintenance. She's became a lifeguard instructor so we can better service our pools for you. She's a software guru for our MIS system. And there isn't really much that Sarah wouldn't do for the Y. And so for that, I'm eternally grateful. This past summer, Sarah and Fred oversaw the outdoor pool Sarah oversaw the outdoor pool operation, the food program operation, as well as the summer park programs. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah just to give you an overview of what happened in your parks this summer.
Is it okay if I unplug?
Close out before we pull the plug on that. Here, let me just do this. I'm just gonna quit this if I can. Oh. This one. Sorry, it's just not going.
Okay, I'm gonna try to make this short and sweet. So, thank you for having us. Here you can just see that we did the parks program. I want to go through just a few things real quick. The things that the kids did, the things they loved, the things that our staff loved, the things that we did with our future leaders. So please stop me if you have any questions. As you can see, here's some of our future leaders already. The parks program and the city of Easton, all of us pride ourselves in working with our community partners, and this is just a list of some of our community partners that we've worked together with just this year. The United Way, Cooking Matters, the Rotary Club of Easton really hooked us up with providing some food literacy and nutrition literacy programs, books to actually hand out to the kids. And just Crayola, working with Pax Nosa, it helps create a better tight-knit community, and it definitely makes it easier for us to work with the kids. If you have an issue, it's great to be able to call Pax and say, hey, the summer's over, but this kid still needs help. So this is the name, and I really hope that you guys can help us out with that. And it's great because then the ladies over at Pax Nosa then call us up and say, hey, summer's here. These are the kids that we're watching. You know, like it's great to have these partnerships. And so we just hope to continue to create these partnerships and create more and more things for the kids to do. The goals of the Summer Parks program, we were at 7 different locations this summer. We had council-led games, activities throughout the summer. We adopted a consistent presence in each park, which is huge. Any of you guys might know that some of the parks there's not a positive presence in the park. So us being there created a positive presence and actually pushed away some of the negative presence in the parks. Fortunately, with the programs that we were running, we were able to offer nutritious meals to the kids every day. We also provided a pool pass voucher to children who participated and actively participated in our program. So if you actively participated in the program, you got a voucher midweek or the end of the week, whichever, for an adult and one child to attend the pools within the following week, which turned out to be a huge benefit because families loved it. And they were like, this is an opportunity that I wasn't able to have in a normal setting because I can't afford to bring my family. So we had activities that guided by role models who created a safe and nurturing environment. And when I say we're guiding role models, we were able to employ staff from the children in our community. So we had staff aging between the ages of 14 and 19 working for us that we guided to then also be role models as well. And many of them are currently still on our staff. We assisted in preventing the summer slide with literacy, STEM, and STEAM curriculums. We had the collaborative relationships that we engaged with youth of the community, included hiring the staff from the community. We built positive relationships, taught lifelong skills, established resistance to high-risk behavior, and also just physical activity and social emotional activity as well. I'm just going to go through just the few of our locations that we were at Pax Nosa Playground. So we were right behind Pax because Vanderveer was supposed to get renovated, but it didn't happen. But that's okay because at Pax Nosa, we were there after the kids finished their summer sizzler. So they were at the education portion of the day, and then we changed our hours for the parks program to be there to catch the kids after they were in school. So the kids were within walking distance. It was a great resource hub. So if they needed anything, they knew to come to us. And like I said, we have our community partners, so we're able to speak with whoever needs to be spoken to and get the kids to where they need to go and the parents need to go. That location, we mostly had ages 8 through 15, and it was mostly just children. We do have some parents, but not so many. And it's just great because you're able to put you're able to make a touch point with the kids. And at that location, their favorites were card games that included math and social emotional activities and physical activities, mostly the physical activities because they were already sitting in school for the portion of the morning. Dutchtown is a mostly Spanish-speaking families. It's a great hub for our community for reaching those who have the language barriers. That presence in that particular park warded off a lot of negativity. When we first started there this summer, there was a lot of vandalism, a lot of garbage, and stuff like that. So we actually went through having gloves and teaching the kids to clean up, and we brought garbage bags, and then we wiped everything down. And by the end of the summer, we weren't cleaning up anymore because it was just non-existent. We supported the cleanliness and the further vandalism. That was mostly ages 2 through 9, but that was a family-attended location. So we had a lot more moms and dads were there with their children. And those location favorites were a lot of STEM activities, and we did a lot of basic counting and letter recognition because a lot of those children weren't speaking English. So it was really a good time to play games and teach those things as well.
Okay, so I'm going to go over the next two sites. We were at the Easton Neighborhood Center. This location, we supported the local low-income community that is behind the Easton Neighborhood Center. Primarily, I had ages 3 to 13. The location favorites were STEM, gross motor, social emotional activities, and of course, they love slime. We did leadership activities. We had an Earth Day activity where they cleaned up the park, and then every day they were to clean up the park. This was a location that the kids were waiting for the van to arrive. As soon as they saw it, they ran and got the whole community to come over. Nevin Park, their favorite activities were STEM and crafts, primarily ages 3 to 8. Most of the kids were dropped off by parents and picked up. They weren't able to walk, so the parents picked them up. Yes.
One thing I just wanted to share is at both of them, like Fred said, at Easton Neighborhood Center, I have written there that it was family atmosphere, but truly amazing that they were waiting for the van to show up, and they were, the whole family showed up, like all 6 kids, and so like the sisters taking care of the brothers are taking care of, and they really valued the social emotional. Like when we first got there, they didn't want to do activities; they wanted to sit there and just hang out and have an adult listen to them. And so there's a lot more relationship building at that park. I mean, not that there weren't relationship building at any of the other ones, but there's a lot more, I feel, at the Easton Neighborhood Center than there was at any other park. Is that a statement? And then Nevin Park, in our minds, it's easily accessible, but the children who wanted to attend that park, it wasn't easily walkable. So the parents actually dropped them off. And then something different this year, in which we did start implementing last year at Heil and Eddie's side, was that while the guards were off the stand, they started doing things with the kids to actually help mitigate bad behavior. Because when the kids know the staff know the kids, it's easier to discipline when you know the children than it is when you don't know them. So that there's more of a relationship there. So when we started doing that, when we were asked to do the parks program, I said, I really feel like the pools is a perfect place to start the parks program because the kids are already there and that we already have relationships built. That being said, there's a vast range of ages at the pools participating in the parks program, because not only do you have the infants who are there with their parents, but the parents are also participating. So it was really nice that you got the whole family dynamic. It was really easy to get the parents involved because they're forced to be there because the children are there, whereas they can't just like kick the kid out of the car, and go. So the location favorites there were that we did murals, as you can see here. The park's kids actually participated in painting those at Eddie's side, and there's actually hopefully a plan to do a mural at Heil next summer. Already painted. The kids want to do fish. Or already planned. They want to do fish. So they love that they're able to put a piece of themselves on something that is seen by the community. As you can see, there's also a picture here of 2 of the guards in the pool with some of the kids. During the guards' downtime, they participated in the pop-up and play program by providing some swim lessons or teaching the kids to dive, or hey, this one's going to be doing swim team, or they need to work on their flip turns, or hey, I can't swim, so I can't go down the slide. And so they worked from the beginning of the summer to be able to get to go down the slide at the end of the summer. So fortunately, there is a lot more options at the pools for the kids to do activities. They were able to do water games and STEM art and stuff like that. And one of the biggest things the kids absolutely loved is they were able to use the park across from Heil and play kickball and all sorts of, large group games. And the really nice thing about that is that the Children's Home of Easton would bring a solid 15 kids every day. And those kids were the most respectful kids, and they were so good at getting everybody amped up and playing games that I have to say that it was wonderful at Heil because there was always so many kids willing to play games. That being said, Westward Market and Wacky Wednesdays, that was actually funded by the Rotary Club of Easton to do literacy on like healthy eating and stuff like that. But I had to add it in here because it ran right after Pax Nosa on Wednesdays, and all of our kids would show up here from all the parks. So Wacky Wednesdays were hugely, it was like successful, and it was once a month. So June, July, and August, we had once a month. We had a Wacky Wednesday that was crazy. We went like all out, and we were allowed to use Cottingham Stadium. And let me tell you, the kids, it was like we let them step on hallowed ground, and it was like parents were like, "You need to let us do this more often." I'm like, "We got this, okay?" So as you can see, we did tie-dye, and this pool here is actually filled with Orbeez. And if any of you guys have children, you know that is like a huge deal, okay? So that was filled with these little gel balls, and the kids got to like play in it, and then they also got to do a massive slip and slide. It was 100 feet long on Cottingham Stadium, and as you can see, the smiles on their faces ear to ear. With the regular Parks program, we tie-dyed over 300 shirts.
Yep.
This one's not tie-dyed, but each kid who participated in the Parks program got one of these, and they got to tie-dye it. And it has our partners on the back here. And then just like some other really cool numbers on the last day of Wacky Wednesday, our last Wacky Wednesday, we did over 200 s'mores. We made like a little campfire pit, and the kids were able to do s'mores. And like the amount of kids that said I've never had a s'more before is absolutely astonishing. So like I really just think that this program really gave the kids something to look forward to. It gave them something to learn new things, to get to experience things that I got to experience as a kid that they didn't. That's it for that. Just to give you guys a rough idea, we employed 12 youth between the ages of 14 and 19 this summer to also help us with the Summer Parks program. So not only did we employ the youth of our area and mentor them and guide them into their first job, but then we also like worked on teaching them how to be a role model and offering them the ability to be a mentor themselves, which is something that kids don't get much anymore, and teaching them the healthy habits and behaviors. The end of summer surveys showed parents said like, hey, the pool vouchers were great. It was something that I wasn't able to do if I didn't have it. The kids said, you let us do things. You like make slime. Mom didn't let us do that. We did a lot of messy things. Fred's favorite is something with shaving cream.
Yes, you put shaving cream in a pan, and then you put food dye in it and put a piece of cardstock on it, and it marbles the cardstock. The kids really enjoyed that, but it is messy.
Again, super messy. So like we like to do the messy things because we're already outside, and the things that the parents are like, no, you can leave that here. So, like I said, like the faces of the kids, you can't make it up. It's just amazing. All of that being said, supporting our community, we served over 6,300 meals this summer. Those meals are not just from the Parks program, but it's also at other community partners that we had. So we serve meals with Community Bike Works, with the public library, the Easton Public Library. We serve meals there. That's all in those numbers, as well as our Camp Kids at the Y. At the parks, we had over 3,886 individual kids who actually visited the park like on a daily basis. And that's, I'm sorry, that's not individual kids, that's individual visits. So like a kid who came 3 days a week or something like that. 398 people, families used the pool vouchers. Like, so pool voucher participants throughout the summer, which is astonishing because a lot of them were repeat customers. And all of that just makes this for the best summer ever. Any questions?
Sarah, would I be able to get a hard copy of your presentation?
I brought one, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you guys see on the windowsill, the kids made you guys a thank you letter, and they put their thumbprints on it for you guys to hang up on somewhere here in the office. And then up front here is some cards that the kids made for you guys personally to thank you for providing this opportunity and making their summer fun.
I just got to say that the ARPA funds made this summer playground available, and we started it, but we knew that the city failed at it before, and it was the first time ever we bringing it back after a hiatus of maybe 10 years. And you guys did a great job. I mean, I visited some of the playgrounds and parks, and you guys did a great job. We really want to thank you. We knew that COVID hit the young people the hardest. And this was something to get them back outside, back in the playground, doing something constructive. And the pool vouchers, we'll just make sure we do that again next year.
And when you were saying the number of pool vouchers, I mean, I understood it was each voucher was an adult and a child. So you basically double that number, right?
So what? No. So that was 399 vouchers redeemed. And I would just like to say that one of the biggest testimonials that we received was that, so especially over at Easton Neighborhood Center, they're multi-generational families. So when you have 4 kids, if you have 4 vouchers and only mom and dad, then you still have to pay for 2 kids, but grandma was able to bring 1 kid, and so was grandpa. So then the whole family was able to come because each kid got a voucher. So, like the one quote that we had on there was from one of those parents. It was just like, hey, like it wouldn't have been feasible for me to bring the whole entire family if it wasn't for those vouchers.
Right. One question. I noticed in the summertime over at the neighborhood center that you have a pickup. Is that a pickup area over there for the kids?
I'm
Parents,
sorry, I didn't
for the parents to pick their children up. Always see the wide van over there, and the kids playing under the pavilion over there.
Where at?
Neighborhood center.
Yes.
So we're there. Well, this summer we were there Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Right. I noticed that.
Yeah.
They're my running days, so I noticed that.
Well, thank you, and to the staff at the Y, you doing a great job. And we also want to thank you for the pools. Although we did every other day again, the pools were very successful and lack of any incidents that I know of. So that was even better.
Yeah.
Great job, Lloyd.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And for the after-school program, too. I think that's, I see the kids getting off the bus, and I know how many kids you got there, and it's a valuable service, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here for public comment on agenda items only? Anyone else on agenda items only? Moving on to consent agenda, Madam Clerk.
Under the consent agenda, we have a resolution which would approve a certificate of appropriateness for 30 North 4th Street and also a certificate for 453 Northampton Street. We have a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Easton and Neo Solutions for a chemical for the wastewater treatment plant, as well as the same with Premier Magnesia, also for a chemical for the wastewater treatment plant. And another one with Holland Company, also for chemicals at the wastewater treatment plant. And then actually 2 more with Neo Solutions for 2 more chemicals at the wastewater treatment plant. Then we have a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Easton and Milberg, Bryson, Coleman, Phillips, and Grossman, where they would provide property registration and enforcement service for the Easton's vacant and foreclosed properties. A resolution approving an agreement with Constellation New Energy. It's a 3-year renewal agreement, actually. A resolution approving an agreement with Rock Solid Trail Contracting to look for the feasibility and development of designs for 2 potential bike amenities within the City of Easton. And then we also have an encroachment agreement between the City of Easton and the State Theater, which would allow them to install decorative bollards on the sidewalk area.
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
Moving second, Mr. Hopkins, you want to come up and just explain the Rock Solid Trail contract and what we're planning? I think it's pretty interesting.
Sure. So we've been in discussion for quite some time. Lou Mazzante is here from the Lehigh Valley Mountain Bikers. I think you're the president, correct? So, we've been talking for a long time about, the need to meet our biking demand. And these types of amenities are becoming extremely popular all over the place. So, Lou has a pretty deep background in mountain biking, and was able to get his group on board to help us sort of, sort through what could be possible in Easton and what might make the most sense. And so the study will focus on 2 facilities. One would be, and these are potential, when we get through the process, we would know better, but we were looking for a pump track possibly down at Delaware Canal Park in the grassy area. If you're not familiar with what a pump track is, it's a course that's designed to sort of pump your body through without pedaling. It's pretty fun, and it can also, skateboarders can use it, scooters can use it. So there's a pretty wide range of appeal there. And then the second option we wanted to look at was some sort of mountain biking course up in Hackett Park. Lou thinks it's a pretty good location. It's used for that purpose now. There's a couple sections that are sort of in the wooded area that people are using And so we'd like to look into the possibility of feasibility of those facilities, and also once we do kind of have a conceptual design, it allows us to shop around for grant funding.
Dave, were you talking about in the backside where the baseball field is in the woods there?
Yes.
Yeah, because there is some openings back there. A lot of nice areas back there. I
You
remember
wanna
from,
say anything, Lou?
Sure. Come on up.
I mean, I love
Your name and address, Lou. Don't tell us you went to school with Lou, because that doesn't help.
You all know that by now. Louis Mazzanti, Mazzante, 21 Sutton Place, Easton, 28045.
Thank you.
I was going to say too, as Dave mentioned, it really is about providing a need for the kids in the community too. We've seen it. We've seen them riding around. We've been talking about it for a long time. The pump track, it really is accessible. Kids from 2 years old can start riding on these on balance bikes all the way up to adults. I see families out the one. There's one in Emmaus, Pennsylvania is the closest one to us, and that's filled with families every single weekend. And then at Hackett Park, it's just a larger facility where we can incorporate the terrain a little bit, build some additional features. I honestly was a little bit nervous about the distance from downtown. We want to serve the community. We want to serve the kids that are here, especially in the West Ward, where they'd be out there, where they would get to use it. I've had so many positive conversations with the kids, just meeting them. They all think I work at Bicycling and Hearst Magazines right across the street too. Everyone thinks our offices are a bike shop, so I get to talk to a lot of people on the street. And just yesterday, there was 2 young kids out there. They were trying to come in to get their tires fixed. And I asked them about the pump track, and I asked them about a bike park and whether they would use it, whether they'd ride their bikes out there. And they were so excited. They're like, we ride our bikes to Bethlehem. We ride them to Allentown. We will go to Hackett Park to ride our bikes if you build this facility. So there's already real enthusiasm in the community for this. It serves a need. I'm happy to work with the city to come up with some really good concept plans. I think the firm that we chose is one of the best in the business too. They have an outstanding reputation. So we'd be really fortunate to work with them too. And they're excited about the project and what they can bring to the city.
Great. Thank you, Lou, for your involvement.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Lou's been a big help to us with our bicycling programs, not just this, but also we met with him a couple of times on the with the people from York. Pedals for Peace, right? Dr. Ruggles.
Can I ask a question on the
Sure.
agreement with Constellation?
Hmm.
I noticed on here that there's one of the things was street lights. What is that? I mean, I thought we paid Med Ed for street lights. Is this our street lights or is it?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot. We have about 1,600 in the grid.
Right.
And I'd say probably about 200 of those are metered. So we would pay the metered rate versus the tariff rate.
Okay. And what's our tariff rate?
I don't know off the top of my head.
$18 per head, $35 for double head.
Yeah, it varies based on wattage. Most of our Med-Ed lights are 150 watt high pressure sodium. So
Right.
it's probably close to that. It's probably about $17 a month per head.
I
They don't-
thought I remembered you telling me a number in that neighborhood, but when I look at our metered ones here and how much we're paying for that, I calculated around probably $7 or $8 a month that we're paying for those, while we're paying $17, $18 a month for Med Ed.
So in that is included their lamp, what they call it lamp and photo cell maintenance. So they're the ones that Med Ed maintains, the city doesn't, and they're also responsible for the fixtures and the heads. So if there's a car accident and it takes out a Med Ed light, Med Ed is required to go and replace it. So I guess they boil all of that into the rate.
Yeah, it just seemed pretty steep.
Well, the Constellation Energy, just so you know, is a program of the Pennsylvania Municipal League, and we contract all the cities that are involved with Constellation Energy. But even they went up a lot this year, as we told you in our budget message. Even that Friday that I presented the budget, that Monday to Friday, we got the call that it went up 80%.
It doubled.
Doubled, 100%.
So it went up 100%.
Yeah.
Not quite, because what happens is the generation part of your electric bill it's about 65% of it, and then the remainder is transmission and distribution charges. So The Constellation portion is the 65%. MedEd still charges us for T&D, but I'm advised that MedEd is also seeking a rate hike for that portion of the bill. So for now, it only applies to a certain portion of the bill, but I would expect that there, we'll have another increase coming.
So if we did an analysis of our streetlights, how much money we put into them, heads, everything, and the amount of we're paying electricity-wise, could we compare that to MedEd, what they're charging us, and maybe use that as, I know MedEd's not the easiest group to negotiate with, but it just seems like $17 per month per head is a lot of money.
It is, and if you look in liquid fuels, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I think it's pretty close to $500,000 just for
It's over 400,000.
the streetlight bill. It's up there. No, you're right. It's a tremendous expense, and it's all off-peak power.
Yeah, and I mean we have data for what it's charging us. I mean what's costing us for our lights, and I think comparing that to what we're actually paying, I think would be a good bargaining chip.
So I understand that the cost is the initial outlay for all the meters.
Yeah, I mean to meter MedEd's network is really different.
Yeah, but I'm not saying let's meter all of them, but what I'm saying is, okay, I'm making numbers up here, but let's say we analyze ours and we say, oh, gee, it's only costing us $12 per head. Okay, MedEd, you're charging us $17 a head. We'll go to MedEd and say, look, this is all we're doing. I mean, this is our actual data, and look what you're charging us. You're overbilling us, and I mean, just see what they say.
Well, I think because it's all PUC approved. I don't think there's any. They don't even have a choice. They couldn't negotiate it.
Oh, they couldn't.
No,
I think you'd have to go to PUC to get a reduction in the tariff rate.
And right now their retail rate for us, if we had gone back to them for the generation part, would be 11.48 cents. So
wow.
So even though we felt the sting of the increase, we're still paying a lot less than we would through the PML. So, and they do have an LED conversion program, which we look at every year with them. One of the difficulties we have is that back in, I think 2011, I don't know if you remember when MedEd did the big revamp of all of our lighting. So they came in, they put in all new 150 watt HPS lights. And so they have a remaining service life calculation for those lights, and they capitalize them for 20 years. So when you look at us switching over to LED, and by the time we pay the remaining service life, the cost is, there's no ROI, because I believe that the tariff reduces I think going from HPS to LED is $2 per fixture per month. So the ROI would be great if we didn't have to pay that remaining service life. That's what kills sort of but we're getting closer.
We're getting to the point where we can do it probably within the next 2 years, 3 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a motion and roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye. We received the report from the fire department for September 2022. And we go on to reports to the committees. Finance Committee, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to report to council, we did meet for our first budget review. That was on the 18th of October, and we went over most of the things that were covered under administration. We had questions were answered, and there were some questions that are still out there that we would like to get answered in the near future. Our next budget hearing review comes up on Tuesday the 1st at 6 p.m. On the agenda this evening, I have 3 things. I have Bill 28, which is an ordinance amending the general fund. Bill 29, which is an ordinance amending the 2022 sewage fund budget, and Bill 30, which is amending the pension for this year. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman O'Connell, Economic Development Committee.
Mayor, I don't have a report as such, but I just did want to say one thing. I wanted to give a special shout out to the police department. I went to an event last Thursday over at the Boys and Girls Club called Meet the Police, and it was just it was an event where the members of the police department came out to meet mostly kids, and they were just showing them various things that the police do in order to apprehend criminals and to make people safe. The kids loved it. It was a great thing to do for the police. Unfortunately I could not stay for the Q&A period that you were there for, Mayor, but it was very inspiring. I thought it was a great thing to do. It's another one of the reasons that I'm so proud of the police department. So
Kids, they really enjoyed the K9 demonstration outside, and they enjoyed putting on the flak jackets and stuff, and getting behind the riot gear, and it was interesting. Dominique Price was racing them up and down the gym, and that kid was little. He almost beat him. It was interesting, but the Q&A period was really good with the kids. It was just a good event, and I'm glad our police do it as well. Very good for them to get out and meet people in a non-arresting way. Okay, Planning and Code Committee, Mr. Sultana.
I have no report.
Public Safety, Councilmember Ruggles.
I have no report.
And Public Works, Councilman Eddinger.
I have no report tonight.
Administration Committee, Councilman Milan.
No report, Mayor.
Report of the Solicitor, Mr. Clark.
No report.
Okay. Report of the Mayor, I just want to mention that Bacon Fest is coming up next weekend. This weekend is the Halloween Parade, and the Winter Market starts on November 18th and 19th that weekend, 18, 19, and 20. And I want you to know that you'll be getting representation from an invitation for council members to meet with the Small Business Administration. We've been selected. They're coming up on Friday, the 18th, to see our winter market and how we're helping our retailers and our small businesses. They're getting ready for Small Business Saturday, and they're coming up the day before. They're going to interview 3 of our retailers, one minority-owned, one that's been in business for a long time, and one that expanded their downtown business. And they're going to be participating, so we're really fortunate. We also, for the winter market, we still have an opening for our chestnut roaster, something that I'm looking for myself. I love roasted chestnuts, so we're trying to get a chestnut roaster this year. Also on the agenda tonight, I have approval for a grant application to reforest the West Ward. Mr. Hopkins came in, and the application will be for $100,000 and requires a $25,000 match to be approved by City Council. Last weekend, Friday night, I was at the Easton High School football game at home, where we had projected to maybe have a lot of, as you know, they beefed up security for the police and for administrators. All the administrators were there as well. We did not have one incident. It was a really good night. People who were there to watch the football game, not to get in fights. 2 weeks before, or a week before, we had a kid at the Liberty Easton game with a loaded gun. So the police did turn away. We had a cop at every entrance, and there were kids who were trying to get in for free. They were the ones who weren't there to watch the football game. So we're really excited about the fact that this Friday night is another night. We play Nazareth, so we'll see what happens. But the police are well aware of the issues. No one's allowed. I think the new security systems, rules, and regulations that the school district put in are really helping out. And working with our police department, they're really, it's a good experience rather than going to a game and watching fighting. Our facade grants program is, just to give you an update, we have 147 individual property owners interested with 88 applications received. All neighborhoods are represented so far, and the staff has held 4 reviews, and Mr. Hopkins has been part of them as well. And just, again, want to mention that the candle lighting, I believe, is going to be Saturday night this year on November 26th, but I'm not sure, but because that's being done by the GEDP. It's my report, so we'll move right on to report of City Administrator, Mr. Campos.
One item, Mayor. We received over 50 resumes for the HR manager position. So we're starting interviews next week, at least initial phone screenings. So I'll just keep you updated.
Okay. There's no correspondence, no unfinished business. New business, Madam Clerk.
Okay, we have bill number 29 being introduced by Mr. Brown, which would amend the 2022 sewer fund budget. Oh, nope, hang on,
28.
28, my apologies.
No problem.
Then we have bill number 29, which would amend the sewer one. 28 is to amend the general fund. Then we have bill 30, amending chapter 10, 110 of the pensions of the code. And we have bill number 31 being introduced by Dr. Ruggles, which would create a 15-minute parking pickup.
Bill 28. So moved.
Thank you, hon.
Moved. Is there a second?
No, it's just being.
Oh, it's introduced, I'm
now.
sorry.
Right.
Did you just read through all those bills?
You did.
What? I know. Yeah,
Bill 29.
bill
Introduced.
29 is moved. Bill 30,
Mhm. Bill 30.
And then Bill-
And introduce all three.
and then bill 31 with Dr. Ruggles.
So introduced.
Thanks.
Mayor, we want to address the issue in 30 with that one language that we wanted to amend.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's with the pensions of bill number 30. Mr. Clark?
Thank you. I'm going to hand council a copy of, an updated copy of the amendment. There's a clause that we wanted to change because we cut and pasted straight from the collective bargaining agreement. That's what, it's the impetus behind this amendment. And it's just not correctly worded for an ordinance. And so since this is just an introduction, we're going to show council the amended clause. I've highlighted it on this section. It's within the red line version itself, so you can see we just changed the wording so it fits more appropriately with an ordinance versus a CBA. I've also attached for council's reference the relevant 2 pages from the CBA that deal with this amendment of the pension ordinance itself, that where the police agree that the ordinance can be changed as part of the collective bargaining agreement. And you can see there, we just cut and paste the language from the CBA right into the ordinance. So I have a copy for everyone.
I'll have that posted on the web tomorrow.
So the version you gave us is not what he's given us now?
Correct.
So we have to amend it then?
Right, we're going to need a motion to amend.
In 2 weeks?
Yeah, you don't have to do it.
You want, because this is just being introduced.
It's just being introduced.
Right now.
We have to amend it in 2 weeks then?
Well, we'd like to introduce it as amended, so we
Right.
don't have to amend it.
We can, if we amend it, if we make a motion to amend it as introduced, amend what's introduced today, then it's introduced with the amended version.
With this
on it.
part of, so I'll
As it is
make
right
that
now.
motion that we amend it then.
Right.
But it wasn't advertised though.
Yes, it was.
This new one?
Yeah.
When?
Oh, what did we put on the agenda last night?
It's the old one.
Oh, the grant.
This is the new one.
No, what we put on the web yesterday was the grant.
Right.
Yeah, this is the old one. So,
Right, it has to get advertised between now and when it's,
right, so I'm saying in 2 weeks we'll introduce it then. We'll amend it in 2 weeks.
No,
we're going to advertise this version. Because we need to advertise the version that will be, it's introduced today.
Yeah.
It has to be advertised, and then it gets voted on at the next meeting.
Okay.
I need a motion to amend it.
I
did.
No?
Point of order.
ahead.
I, don't we just need to introduce the amended?
Correct.
Right.
That's all you
Yeah,
need
that's
to
all
do.
we need to
Correct.
do, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You don't need to amend
Right.
the original.
Right,
That's
correct.
right, that's the way to say it.
And
Thank
so
you,
I
Doc.
made that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to,
It's just introduced.
right, I'm saying, that's right, it's just introduced. That's right.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So,
Sorry.
moving on, Madam Clerk.
I'm kind of confused at what.
Thank you,
happened.
Mr. Clark.
I gotta be honest with you. Okay, hang on. All right, Bill 30. Okay, we have then a resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, which would approve the sale of 2 vehicles that the city owns to the Easton Area School District.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, is there any discussion? Roll call.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
And Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, authorizing the administration to order a 10-ton Mack truck for the Department of Public Works.
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Hopkins, are we bidding a Mack truck, or is it just a 10-ton truck? It's a Mack, okay, I just want to make sure.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Eddinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
And Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Okay, then we have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Eddinger, which authorizes the administration to apply for a $100,000 grant, which will be used for street trees and tree wells in the West Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Panto.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Eddinger.
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
And Mrs. Sultana.
Aye.
At this time, we have public comment on any item concerning the city of Easton. Mr. Pugliese.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Sal Pugliese. I live at 2225 Hackett Avenue in Easton, PA, 18045. We have, seems like an act of God tax, which is stormwater. Since we had a drought this past summer, Mr. Council, are we entitled to a rebate on this stormwater? There was a drought this past summer, and I guess we're all looking to save some money. Another issue I have is a hotel next door. The taxpayers paid for. We paid to tear it down. We wanted to donate. I didn't want to donate. The city wanted to donate it to the Da Vinci Science Center, which got this from the Da Vinci Science Center. The city sold the property. I guess I'm looking for my cut. Since I helped pay for it, I know, I'm sorry, Mr. Brown, it is funny.
It's a good point.
humiliating that the city would rip off its taxpayers. It's amazing.
I'm not laughing at you. I apologize.
sir, I'm
No, I was
sorry. I
laughing at
took
the
it
fact
personally.
that I understand what you're saying. That was definitely funny.
Mr. Pugliese, we paid for an ongoing business that was a cash cow, number one. So we didn't just pay for the property. When we sold it, we sold just the property. Secondly, the amount of taxes that we will collect in 1 year from the new development will be more than 10 years worth of taxes we collected from the Days Inn. So, yes.
So is the taxpayers going to see
So
any
you're gonna-
benefit to this? I guess
Hopefully,
that's the-
hopefully at some point you will.
In the next lifetime?
No, this lifetime. Hopefully you will, because between the two projects here at both ends of the city hall, you're probably looking at over $1.25 million in property taxes and earned income taxes.
And I might add, you have benefited in the fact that there hasn't been any property tax increases in
15 years.
15 years.
No,
Okay,
the millage
so
just goes up.
No,
no, millage has not gone up at all in 15
School has.
School has, but not the city. So that's part of the benefit that's being sent back to the, I mean, look at the school tax over the past 15 years,
Well,
and
they're
how much
just
has it gone up?
They're just as corrupt. The school taxes are out of
But
sight.
I know, but I mean, take a look at that, and then zero for the city of Easton.
But the city has the money they got from that property to put into their budget, so they don't need an increase.
Well, we purchased the property initially,
The
and then when we
taxpayers don't pay for it.
and then when we sold the property, when you buy and sell, that evens. I mean, it doesn't even out, but it does go to the sale. I mean, to the purchase.
Well, I did see, thank you, Mayor Sal Panto. I did see a thank you for Easton City Council, but I never seen a thank you to the city of Easton taxpayers to help pay for that project. You know, I think it's appalling that you people would get the thank you for ripping off the taxpayers. And never once were we thanked, the taxpayers meaning, for helping purchase that property, tearing it down, and letting you people sell it.
Well, if you haven't heard it, I believe that the mayor mentioned it and the rest of the council, we do on, not enough, but we do appreciate the fact that the city taxpayers are getting breaks, and we do appreciate the fact that they are willing to allow us to make these changes. So future look going forward, you're not being hurt, and our seniors are not being hurt, and they're precious to each and every one of us, that they don't have to pay property taxes, and we're not pushing them out of their homes.
Well, maybe they should have put thank you taxpayers of City of Easton also for helping pay for that project, which I wanted to go vandalize and just put thank you taxpayers also. But I didn't want to go to jail over it, Mr. Mayor.
Don't say that.
Well, again, okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Pugliese.
Thank you, Mr. Pugliese.
Okay, Mr. Pugliese, thank you. I was going to address your stormwater, but I'll address that at another time. That's a federal law. You're getting it in Palmer Township also. You will be. Believe me, you are.
Coming.
Anyone else like to address City Council? Seeing none, I'll move for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved in second. A roll call, please.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mr. Eddinger?
Aye.
And Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Hey,